we can officially welcome everybody. Thank you for being here to our webinar, which is called, what's it called, Julie? Learning to listen to body wisdom. Wisdom of body, of your body. Yeah. Okay, well done. Thank you for remembering. Oh gosh. Sorry, just got to plug myself in. There we go. To courage. So yes, thank you for being here on a Friday afternoon. We weren't quite sure whether this would work on a Friday afternoon. You never know what some people take Friday off, but it's great to have some of you here live. And we know there'll be lots of people. We've had over 90 people signed up for this, so there'll be plenty that want the recording. So we thought we would organise this webinar to give you a taste of what's on offer at our brand new 3-day retreat that we'll be holding in September in Albania, where I live, more or less. Quiet Mind, Quiet Body, which happens to be the title of Julie's upcoming book. So it's very much a baby of Julie's versus mine. But I have to say, when I heard about her vision, which I think she's going to share a little bit about, when I heard about her vision, I was like, I want to talk to Julie about that because I really like the sound of that. So we got together, we had a conversation, and from that conversation, we have in the form a 3-day retreat happening here in LB called Quiet Mind, Quiet Body, which is very exciting for both of us. So I wanted to start by giving, here's another fan coming in, Julie. Another one of your fans entering the room now. We all know. Ellen Friedman and Mick Tomlinson and Julie McCammon did a wonderful panel for us at the Viva event here in Albania last year, which I did share in the email a couple of times. Great to go and watch that. So welcome, Ellen. I'm just saying, nice to see you. There's somebody else coming in. Yeah, so what I wanted to do was really start by introducing Julie officially. So because some of you might not know who she is, and I think it's important, and we were saying that before, I just feel it is important to know her background a little bit. And we said, shall I introduce you or do you want to introduce you? And vice versa. She said, no, you do it. So I'm going to read a little bit of her background from her official bio, and I might add a bit in about from me. So Julie's a physiotherapist. She is a physio, and I heard in her, I think she's got 30 years of experience as a physio. And she's also a myofascial release person, and I have had myofascial release treatment from Julie. Amazing. She's also a body mind coach, and she's the author of 2 books already, one called Finding Mystery Within and another called Rethinking Pain. And as I said, the next one's on its way, so she's got 3. So she lives in Northern Ireland, which is where she treats her patients and sees her clients. And you know, she's been researching her book Quiet Mind and Quiet Body for over a year at least, and it's a book that combines the understanding of how the mind works with the latest pain neuroscience, and that's the bit I don't really know anything about. That's her specialty. I won't be talking about that. She will. So it's specifically written for those struggling with persistent pain. Now, I met Julie a couple of years ago here in Albania. Again, she came to a retreat. And when I heard her speak, she was very, I don't know, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Julie, and I did write about it a little bit in one of my emails, but for me, I felt, here's a woman with so much potential. She's very shy and retiring and a little bit, yeah, just a little bit not quite sure, can I say this? I might, you know, that sort of thing. That's the first time I met you. And then I met you again the year later, and I was like, whoa, who is this woman? Something's happened in the last year, you know, she's really come into her own, and it was wonderful to witness and to be witness to that. And I know that you've been on an Ian Watson's training, and I'm sure that had lots to do with it. You did a 6-month program with him and other things along the way. Yeah, and so when I heard what you wanted to create, I was like, I'm in. Let me have a bit of that. I really like this. I want to be on that. And yeah, I'd love to co-facilitate with you. So I wonder if now's a good time. Do you think, Julie, to share a little bit about your vision and what it is you wanted to be up to?
Yeah, it's always been a dream of mine to a co-lead or lead a retreat about the sort of body-mind connection because that's my passion and my background. I and I'd looked at doing it in different places. You know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I was looking at really beautiful locations, and then I would always chicken out thinking, oh, but I need so many people to even like break even here. So I kept putting it to the back of my mind, but then I did an event that Sheila and Sue led. I can't even remember what it was called.
Oh, the Game of Wondering.
Yes, yes, the Game of
Yeah,
Wonder.
online. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was amazing. I just got such clarity. I was in a breakout room with two other ladies that I'd never met before, and I explained what my dream was, and they wondered about it. I just, I, yeah, they just wondered about it. They weren't offering me advice or solutions, but yeah, it just felt doable then, and I shared it when we came back into the group with everybody, and then Sheila contacted me afterwards. So I guess a my story is that even though I am a physio and have been working as a physio for 35 years now, I was a slow learner and I hadn't a clue what body mind connection meant. My training as a physio, obviously 35 years ago, was very linear, very scientific. There was no suggestion of body mind connection. A and as a result of that, even though I was working with the body and working with people in pain for so many years, I ignored my body. And long story short, I developed viral meningitis and I that because I ignored my body, I was very ill with it. I was actually in the foothills of the Himalayas when I developed it. So it was a bit of a drama getting me out of the foothills and getting me home and all the rest. But I chose to ignore those symptoms and just pushed on through. And that had always been my sort of mentality. I guess I was one of those people that spent like 99% of the time in my head. So I lived life basically from the neck up. I And as a result of that, it went from post-viral fatigue to chronic fatigue to fibromyalgia. And I thought I was going to have to give up my work as a physio. And then I discovered myofascial release. And that, for the first time, really brought the mind and the body together for me and resulted in healing of my symptoms. But I'll sort of not go into that any further. But that's just to explain where my passion comes from, because I can now see how the mind and the body together a are just so much more powerful than, focusing on one or other. So that's where my passion for the retreat comes from. I would love to, obviously, I came across the three principles probably about 4 years ago now, and I've been introducing that into my work, and I've been finding a real shift in people that are struggling with chronic pain. I Again, I was sort of bringing the mind and the body together, but I feel like the three principles has added a whole new dimension to it, which is really the spiritual side for me. So I feel like I'm now addressing the body, mind, and soul, and I'm blown away by the results. So that's where my passion comes from, and I think it would just be a beautiful environment, with a small group of people to really explore this, in a deeper way, not only in sort of like discussions together, but also because we have the use of Sheila's daughter's beautiful yoga studio, we can actually do work with the body. So I'm really excited because it just brings together all my passions.
Mm. Yeah, I was really excited about that when you said, it's like, I've never done this before. Like, Sophie, would it be okay if we use your studio for, a couple of days? And they've just opened a new place in Albert, and it's really conducive to what I think Julie's got to be up to in the afternoon. So yeah, that was even more like, oh, I've never done anything like this. Sort of hands-on and three principles kind of retreat. So yeah, really cool. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just jump in and say, okay, I'm going to pre whatever I'm pre-doing here, sort of a disclaimer. And I generally share this when I talk about physical health, because especially when we're in the three principles conversation, because it's something that happened to me, let's say, something I experienced that had me looking, I think, in the wrong direction for quite a few years. And that was when I came across the principles in 2010. So God, it's 15 years now. And during the first, I don't know, 10 years, probably even, which is a long time to say, I have been, depending on where I am in my elevator of consciousness, I would tell you, I have been plagued by chronic disease, ailments, diseases for years and years and years, for as long as I can remember. And on a good day, when I'm at the top of the elevator, I'll say, I've been gifted. I've been gifted and given the opportunity to grow through having been gifted different chronic ailments, symptoms, diseases, whatever labels we put on these things. So when I came across the principles, one of the areas I was really interested in was physical health. And there weren't many people, to be honest, there weren't many people speaking about physical health at all when I first came across the principles. One of the only people, I hope Dan's not been in the waiting room for ages, but here he comes. One of the people I listened to that I thought was one of the only people really back in those days that was addressing this was Dr. Bill Pettit. And he would talk a lot about stress. And so I heard, misunderstood, over the years, as far as I can see now, is that if I had a really good understanding of how we work psychologically, spiritually, that my symptoms would fall away, that my physical body would be 100% well 100% of the time. Now, that was my misunderstanding. And I was so grateful when in 2019, I heard Linda Pettit at the Viva event make it very clear to me. I heard it really clearly. She was speaking to a big group of us, but I heard her really clearly say, that's not how it works. Like, stop the self-blame, stop the self-flagellation, stop it, just stop it. That's what I heard. She didn't use those words at all, but that's what I heard, was like, just because you see something, you have some sort of understanding, does not mean that the physical body is immediately going to heal. It doesn't work like that. It's a mystery. That's what I heard her say. It's a mystery. So I want to use that as a beginning point, a starting point for what we're sharing here in this this session, and what we'll be sharing on retreat too. That doesn't mean that can't happen, because Julie has what, in my opinion, had what I would call a miraculous healing, overnight healing. I have not, as far as I know, unless it's happened and I haven't noticed, had that happen for me. But what has happened for me over the years, I recognize now, is I've come to live in a place of much more ease with my symptoms. And something that I was saying to Julie before we started recording is, as I've been reflecting on this session, what I've come to see is how important freedom is. I hadn't noticed that until just this past couple of days. Like the freedom I'm experiencing from, and again, this I'm going to say it very in a nutshell, from as Sydney Banks always said to us about love and understanding. It seems to me, reflecting for today and taking it back, like upstream, the key has been love and understanding for me. And I've heard that said over and over again from different teachers, from Sid. And I hadn't really clocked that actually that's true for me. That's actually true. The more I've come to see the importance of a quiet mind, of being present, something I absolutely adore, deep listening, I would put them all in the same category. The more that is, I don't even say how I'm living, but the more that's presence is present, the more I am living in ease and the more freedom I have to be in my life, because I'm not, for a person who's a reforming control freak, it's exactly the opposite. It feels like the freedom comes in not having to control. I think that's what it is for me. That I see that I am actually not in control. I forget, of course I do, I go in and out of it. But when I really see that there's no control, and that is when I'm present, when my mind is not caught up in the stories of insecurity, of how to fix. Because when all's said and done, as far as I can tell now, there isn't any fixing to do. Because if I could, I would. And if other people, I can't tell you the amount of people that I've seen and paid and listened to, and when I stop looking out there for the answers and start looking within, that settles me, and it brings me into the quiet mind. It brings me into the presence. It brings me to a place of ease and flow. And so I wasn't sure whether I was going to share this story, but I will. And some of you have heard this story before. And I was reflecting on it again from this place of in hindsight, how did that happen? How did that work? So it was literally a year ago. I think it's February the 19th when I was admitted into hospital with a very serious case of pneumonia and sepsis. How did I end up in that place? Well, when I look back, I spent the days before that in very strong resistance to what was happening. I overrode all the symptoms and all the signs and all the whispers of wisdom that were telling me to rest, to get help, to listen to. I had family here on holiday and I wanted to spend time with my family. That was it. That was the story in my head, and I couldn't let them down, and I had to be there. And I pushed and I pushed, and I pushed this body to do what it didn't want to do. It didn't need to do. It was fighting an infection. There were plenty of symptoms there, and I just overrode them and overrode them and overrode them. There was the resistance. When I look back, my goodness me, was I in resistance? Was I not wanting to accept? Was I not wanting to be with what was happening? My family left on the Monday morning, and I couldn't get out of bed on that Monday morning. My body, it was now screaming at me. It'd been quietly whispering, it had been talking, then it'd been shouting, and now it was like full on scream. And I literally couldn't get myself to the doctor. I had to call my daughter. She took me off. They sent me in an ambulance with blue flashing lights, the whole thing, because my oxygen levels were so bad. My blood pressure was on the floor. I had so many first experiences in this period of my life that just knocked me like, oh my God. Anyway, I ended up at the hospital. Long story short, they diagnosed me with the pneumonia and the sepsis and said, right, straight into observations. Within a couple of hours, they were telling me you may have to go into ICU, which I later found out meant going in, putting you into a coma, etc., to give your body rest. So it was that serious, but it wasn't until I was in observations, and all the beeping and all the, you know, if we can't get your blood pressure up, if we can't get your oxygen levels up, you're in ICU. That was the point in time when I realized, when I can see back now, I did. People say it sounds like you surrendered. I don't remember any conscious decision of surrendering. All I know and all I remember is like that feeling of, okay, I'm here now, do what you know, you do it. It was I think what happened was I handed it over. It was like, I can't do this. And I handed it over, and I just literally sat back there. That's when I feel, when I look back, like that's when I became much more present, much more in the moment, and back in the flow, if you like. Like for me, it felt like I went back into the flow, stopped the resistance. And the doctors took over and they did all the things. And my mind, again, looking back, didn't know in the moment, but the cognitive mind pretty much shut down, as far as I can tell. That's why there was no resistance. I couldn't. I just done the energy. There was no energy in the system to think straight. No energy whatsoever to think straight. It was just purely being in the moment with what was happening. And I believe that is why this body healed as quickly as it did, because when later on I came to understand it was a pretty quick recovery from what could have been. I was back to work within 5 weeks, and the doctor said, oh, it could easily take 2 months. And I was like, really? Okay, that's interesting to me. And I know some people don't even get back to work for a year or 2 years, 3 years down the line. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. Again, I can, when if you'd have asked me before, would you like this gift of pneumonia and sepsis? Well, my answer would have been no thanks at all. But there was so much learning. There was so much learning for me in that experience, and seeing how surrender or acceptance, or being in the flow, being in a quiet one, being present, was conducive to healing. I really believe that to be true. I really feel that that's what happened for me. I didn't make that happen. It was gifted to me. That was definitely gifted to me. Really feel very strongly that that's my truth. That was, not to say when I was in hospital I didn't resist in certain places when they were trying to do things to me that I didn't want done to me in hospital. But then it was, again, I was like, oh, you're here, Sheela, you're here. You know, that's when my cognitive mind went back on, and after at least 2 days, I couldn't think straight. There was nothing there for me to hold on to. I couldn't look at a phone. I couldn't interact with people properly at all. But after a couple of days, it's like the energy starts to come back, and the mind starts to kick back in, and the habitual thinking starts happening, and so the resistance can be there. That's how it felt to me. And I notice as I look back that yeah, it was the times just be with. And even after I came 12 days in hospital, still not better, but they said, you know, you're not better, but you can go home, but don't go home on your own. So I stayed with my daughter for 2.5 weeks. Now, if you'd have asked me that a few weeks before, they felt I would be living with them and it would be smooth and in the flow and all those things. No, I didn't think it would, but actually it was a beautiful experience. It was very eye-opening to me. And many things happened along the way that have changed me, for sure. Have changed me. And yeah, I wanted to share that story as an illustration of quiet mind, quiet body, I guess, and how resistance is not the way forward. It really isn't. And resistance can show up in many, many ways. And for me, it was absolutely not listening to the wisdom of my body. My body was screaming. Well, it gave me those gentle whispers at the beginning, but it literally started shutting down on me. And that was like, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't go to the doctors, I didn't go to the hospital. I have no idea, because that didn't happen. But yeah, it was in a pretty poor state, and it was telling me loud and clear. And there was yeah, it was a no-brainer. There's no thinking about going to the doctors. It was like, call the daughter, please take me to the doctors. And from there on in, it just flowed. So yeah, that's a little bit of my story. And so Julie, you've got a story to tell too.
Yeah, yeah, it's different but similar. I can't, I think it's about 4 years ago now, I tore a disc in my back, and the pain was like nothing I'd ever experienced. I was literally on my hands and knees for days. Peter had to carry me to the toilet. It was just horrendous, and it just kept going and going for weeks and weeks into months. And I I know now, looking back, I can see how consumed I was with my thoughts and my thinking about it as a physio. I knew intellectually that after 6 to 8 weeks that the disc should have healed, but I still was in excruciating pain. I I know that I wasn't listening to my body. I was really pig-headed, we would say, in Northern Ireland. And stubborn. I was doing everything I knew how to try and fix myself. And I was having a lot of thinking around like I'm a back pain specialist as a physio. And I was thinking, if I can't fix myself, how can I fix my patients? I was totally resistant to just listening to my body. And that's even after I had done the whole myofascial release journey, where I had a real deeper understanding of the importance of listening to your body's wisdom. But yeah, so even I had a huge blind spot as a physio around that whole area of listening to the wisdom of my body. And I pushed and pushed, and I I had physio twice a week. I tried acupuncture. I tried everything that I knew, and was over treating myself at home as well, doing like exercises with the back block and different things. And then it wasn't until one day I was reading a poem on Facebook, and I can't even remember what the poem was or what it said. But I remember going to bed that night, and one of my biggest fears was that I would need surgery, because I had told my patients to avoid surgery like the plague for back pain, because the statistics are not good with success, and especially with chronic back pain, which I was in. A So yeah, I went to bed that night thinking, Julie, you need to detach from the outcome. You need to let go and stop all this trying. A You need to just trust your body. And if you need surgery, you need surgery, but you're going to be okay. So I think once I had accepted that might be and detached from the outcome, I literally woke up the next day with no pain. Now, that wasn't it done and dusted. There was about 2 months later, I then I got up one morning, went to the bathroom, leant over to flush the toilet, and got like a stab of pain again. And it was as excruciating. I was back there, but I was in a different place here in my mind at that stage. And I remember thinking, you're not gonna, you're not gonna go into this whole worry cycle again and fear cycle. It's gonna be okay. And that pain lasted for 48 hours. And I would say, like, because I feel bad even saying that, I it was totally healed once I detached from the outcome. But I do still have a weakness in my back. I would still be prone to a, injuring it or hurting it. So, but I know that now I don't go into that fearful thinking cycle, because I think my fearful thinking was definitely perpetuating my pain. And that is proven in the pain neuroscience. Those pathways in the brain, those neural pathways that are responsible for producing the pain, become like a super highway in your brain. So it takes very little to trigger you back into that path. And it can be just a bit of anxious thinking. It can be a stressful situation. Those things can nudge you back into that pain cycle again. So having an understanding of how the mind and the body work together has definitely helped me to not fall into that rabbit hole of a fearful thinking again whenever I do feel my back, being vulnerable or being a little bit sore. It's so easy to, especially as a physio, needing my back and I'm on my feet all day. What I do is very physical. I and if I do wake up thinking, oh, my back just feels like it's about to go, if I stay there in my thoughts and my thinking, the likelihood that it will go is probably increasing. So yeah, I find that having this understanding has definitely helped me to avoid going back into that well-worn pathway that is in my brain. And the less I trigger it, then the more that dissipates. So that's sort of my story. But I loved what Sheila was talking about, about not resisting. And I think that's so important when we're attached to an outcome or we resist what is, it definitely doesn't help. But we're human and we all do slip into that very easily. I still do it. So it's not that I'm saying it's wrong, but yeah, it's just good to catch yourself whenever you do a naturally slide into that a cycle of fearful thinking again.
It's I can see that Ellen's posted a question, and we're very open for anytime you want to put your hand up or speak to us now, I think you can safely do that. So Ellen, did you want to speak up, or do you want me to read your question out?
Sure. I'm just so you both. And Julie, as you were sharing, it was really clear to me that um it's it's so relevant to chronic pain, and Sheila's story is just shares how relevant it is to illness, all illness, all of life. And so, but Sheila, I was just wondering, since you had that experience, is your relationship with your other symptoms shifted, or your experience with your other symptoms shifted?
I would say my relation. I'm just like, have they shifted? Do you know, I just find that such a difficult question, and I'll tell
Oh,
you why. Because the symptoms, I mean, I can give you all sorts of I have many diagnoses, from
right.
Crohn's disease to peripheral neuropathy to psoriasis to hypothyroidism to, so I have a list, and I all those, symptoms that are related to all those labels, let's say, are not present all the time for me every day. And so I find it tricky. It's like they've not all disappeared, that's for sure. I still experience
No,
those
but
symptoms. The relationship to them, is that the question? I mean, my
yeah,
relationship to
yeah.
yeah.
And the maybe the frequency and intensity
Yeah.
of
Yeah. That's yeah. Um, and the noticing of how less important they are to me, I guess.
mm,
I used to get very fearful. There's certain symptoms would trigger fear immediately. I'm
mhm,
noticing, it's funny, it happened the other day. Oh, suddenly it was as if it was an automatic reaction, the fear, and then
mhm.
it was like, what are you doing? Like that sort of in my head was like, why would you be scared of that anymore? And it was that was true. That was true for me. But it was like that automatic. I don't know if it's my neural pathway that's that's suddenly it's there
I think it's
before I know it.
I mean, I just see it as the human pathway that
Yeah.
we feel something and then we react. But so when I notice for myself and others is like then that time spent in the fear or the time amplifying the symptoms is not always less, but often less.
Yeah, I can say that is for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think it's really important that this message that you have, Sheila, is really important because it's easy to see people in our community who have what appears to be like complete resolution of their symptoms. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. And so sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. But when we're seeking for that, we miss the journey of, less intensity, less frequency, more life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that,
yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that forward and highlighting that. I think it's a really important point you're making. Yeah.
and when I actually listen to those few people who I used to imagine had that I heard had complete resolution, when I listen to them more deeply and I listen again, I don't hear that anymore. I hear that they're not dominated by their symptoms like they were. That's what I hear. I hear that they still have experiences of it.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with you totally on that. Yeah. And it's
So,
like I said, that's why I prefaced it as well, is like, this is what I heard. I don't think for a second Bill Pettit was saying that. And I, if I go back and listen, I probably would hear it very, very differently. Those old recordings I used to, that I was present for, but there would be recordings now. I'm sure I would hear it differently. But I was so intent because that's what I wanted.
yeah,
I wanted to be
know,
healed. I
me
wanted to
too.
be, and so I was looking for any breadcrumb that would tell me that this is possible. And I think we have to be, honest about that. Like, we're not saying come to our retreat or come to this, this webinar, and we will give the information and we will share that and you will be healed. But I think there's something hopeful, very hopeful.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from being present to what is. It allows there's lots of implications that being present and having a quiet mind, and hopeful is one of them. Hopeful, curious, that's another one. But freedom for me seems really important at the moment. Freedom to just be despite symptoms, despite how I feel. I'm free to still live in the world.
Yeah. Thank you for being willing to answer that question about you, and because I just think it's really relevant, and not just Bill Pettit, but there are other colleagues that we have who have written books and run programs who talk about
including yourself, including Mick, for sure.
Yeah, but Mick and I got together.
I know
about that. It doesn't, that it doesn't, we don't always get complete resolution. That's what I want to share, like our relationship shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And Jules, I just want to say, like, your book and your new book is going to be so helpful beyond the chronic pain world, because it's almost like if you don't have chronic pain and you listen to this conversation, you hear something, because it's not what's the answer to my chronic pain. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. Mick, join us for the conversation.
Hello.
Hello.
I've got questions for both of you, if that's all right.
Yeah.
When you were speaking, Sheila, the thing that really struck me, apart from your message, because what I heard in your message was drop the cognitive mind and there's freedom. There it is. But also what I heard was the wisdom of the medical practice to put you in a coma.
That didn't actually happen. That was what could have happened. Right?
Okay, but that's
Yeah.
but effectively it's the same. You did your own version of coma.
Nice way of seeing it.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
that, it's like, in a sense, that what I heard about coma was do that. Shut down this manic kind of fixing on the inside, and what's left? What's left is the raw physical beating heart and all of those processes, which that's what I heard in the word coma, and I hadn't heard coma in that sense before, but I just saw something there. Yeah.
No, that's a really beautiful way of looking at it. Yeah.
But I'm so pleased you didn't have to be put in a coma.
No, me too. And if I had, it would be again. It would be. I just was in there. I was just in the flow, and they're going to do what they're going to do. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I really was in that space. I didn't have any fear. That was the other beautiful part for me to see.
Yeah.
I've always said I don't have a fear of death. I have a fear of pain, which is interesting. And then when I was in that space where it was a strong possibility, there was no fear at all. But again, I will put that down to no real cognitive, online. I was offline in a way. It was like, Dick and Bettinger uses that lovely metaphor of close the laptop. It's like the laptop had closed, and I was just being, flowing with whatever happened next. But I love your take on the coma. Like, I didn't do that. The wisdom of the body did that for me.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me.
Yeah. The wisdom of the body is saying, if these experts are saying go into a coma, I'll take over from here. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. There was no energy.
Great.
I see your hand up, Tracy, but I think Mick had a question for Julie.
Can I just ask Julie, when you're practicing myofascial release, is there an aspect to it where you're teaching your clients, or is the teaching through what they get from the session?
The hands-on treatment is really focused at getting the patient out of their head and into their body.
Right.
Because when we're in pain, we tend to have a lot of judgment around our body as being broken. And that causes us to dissociate from different parts of our body. And there's a thing called interoception, which is being able to feel deeply inside your own body. Like some people, if they put their hand on their heart, they can't even feel their heartbeat. And some people can feel their own heartbeat without even putting their hand on their heart, if they've got better interoception. So during the treatment, I'm trying to get someone to really bring all their attention and awareness into the space beneath my hands. And when they do that, they're becoming much more aware of where they're bracing or holding tension in their body, because we all have our own unique bracing patterns. And that goes very much with our thinking and our thoughts. When we have an anxious thought, we do brace in our body somewhere. And even as a physio, like when I went to do the MFR training initially in America, I was shocked with how little awareness I had about what was going on in my body. And I have many areas where I brace and hold tension. So yeah, the treatment is really to improve. It's really bringing someone deep inside their own body, bringing them back home into their body to really appreciate the wisdom of their body.
Mhm.
So I don't talk a lot during the treatment because I can feel better what's going on beneath my hands when my eyes are closed. So you can feel the fascia releasing and softening, and it releases in a three-dimensional direction. So it's not just like a straightforward stretch that you're doing with them. But then on the other hand, Mick, I do like self-myofascial release classes, which is using using things like this. It's like a softball, which you can put in any area of the body where the person is holding tension. And then that just brings awareness to the tissues directly over the ball. And you're trying to get the tissues to melt like butter over the ball, so the ball sinks in deeper into the body. So it's a bit of a combination of on the table, trusting the wisdom of their body, because sometimes the body will start to move or twitch, and that's just the fascia getting a better release throughout the whole system. Sometimes they have big emotional releases. So yeah, I just encourage them to trust their body, that the wisdom of the body is doing something for a reason. So yeah, it's a combination of a hands-on treatment and self-myofascial release so that they can continue on with some self-treatment, between sessions or whatever.
Thank you. Thank you. No, that's really helpful.
Thanks.
Tracy, I know you've got to hop off in 5 minutes. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I don't know if it really, it was speaking to what you were saying earlier in swimming in the sea through the year. And it's that, and also what Julie was saying about the body's response patterns to things. And, you can go into the sea and feel absolutely no pain at all. And someone next to you is screaming in pain. And it is really about what they're thinking. It's just you, as you learn, as you swim all year round, you just say this is a sensation.
So you're talking about the cold of the sea, is that what you mean?
The cold of the sea.
Right.
If it's like 8 degrees and you're getting in the sea, or you just experience as a sensation. If you've got that, your mind is in that place. Whereas, you could go in with somebody else that's saying, oh my God, this is so painful. And yet, you feel no pain at all if you've got a different mindset. So just really on the power of the mind, really. And I think to what Julie's talking about, patterns. If your body will respond. If you're feeling that it's going to be painful, then sure enough, it will be. And if you don't think it's going to be painful, it won't. It'll be a pleasure. Does that make sense? I know you don't like swimming in cold water, Sheila.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm one of those that would say,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is so painful. Definitely.
But it's just
I've made up my mind already. That's
yes.
That's I don't do cold well. I have to say I don't do cold well. Not yet. Yeah. But no, that is it's a very good example. Definitely a really good example in terms of how experience is created. It's nothing to do with the circumstance being the water in this example, the cold water. Yeah. And I have played around with that, I have to say. I have played around with that. Not in the depth of winter, which is nothing like your winter, but here, going in the sea in April or May is unheard of for me, and I did try that out last year, and it was interesting. It was interesting. Definitely, yeah. To watch the mind where it goes before there's all sorts of examples like that. And for me, it's standing in a hot shower and not wanting to get out because it's really nice and warm in the water. I've spotted that the last couple of days. Like, when are you going to turn the water off? It's going to be the same when you turn the water off. And the mind was like, yeah, just a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. Now I'm starting to just switch the water off. It's like, just switch it off now, because you're still going to have that same, sort of reaction. But then noticing, well, what if you didn't have that reaction when you switched the water off? What if you didn't? So just playing around with that, all those limiters, really, aren't they? They're limiters for all of us. Like, and that comes back to my understanding for myself about freedom. That doesn't give me freedom, thinking I've got to stand in the shower a bit long to stay warm. There's no freedom in that, is there? It doesn't feel like it. And, well, there's freedom to stay, there's freedom to go, I guess, but there's something about it that feels limiting to me. So thank you for sharing that, Trace. Yeah. Julie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they would like to share or ask before we finish? We've got 5 minutes. We did want to share a little about the retreat, even though we have shared a little already. And if not, we will do that. I like Joan sent you a message, Julie, in the messages. She loves the term "we all brace" over "we all tense." That's a new way of seeing tension, a kinder way of seeing what is happening. So thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, we'll just share about the retreat a little bit. Or do you think you've done it justice?
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as I sort of briefly mentioned, that the morning sessions would be us sharing and teaching and discussing different topics. And then you would have the break during the middle of the day, which is lovely. It's such a beautiful area to be able to go and explore, or just hang out on the beach, or hang out in a nice coffee shop. And then we would meet back together again at the yoga studio, which is going to be a very practical session. I plan to do things like a body scan meditations, because I really want people to come back into resonance, and a place of resonance and a place of love with their bodies. And I would also do like self-myofascial release classes I'll be bringing my balls, and just lots of different exercises. We may even do some assisted unwinding sessions for our bodies, because when we really trust our body does what feels good, and it's a really good way of letting go of tension in your body. So there's lots of different little surprise exercises that I have planned that I'm really excited about, because I have found them unbelievably effective in just coming more fully present in my body, which has been a new experience for me since I came across myofascial release. So yeah, that's sort of the format of the day. I don't know if you want to add anything more to that, Sheila.
I want to pick up on what you said about love, because I heard that really touched you. And I imagine it reminded me, actually, a client I was talking to the other day, when I mentioned Linda Pettit and Bill Pettit, the Viva talk that I referred to, and what she heard in that talk was Linda had said, and I went back and I listened to her, and it's true. Linda had said, I never heard this on that when I was there, right? That she'd heard that our first love relationship is with our body.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, really? Is that right? And isn't that, I mean, and what if that's true? Like, for me, I heard that, it's like that opens up a whole new perspective, a whole new, what if I became, and I was talking to this client about well, what if that's true? How, if I was falling in love with my love, my soulmate, my first love, how would I be with that person but would take it over to a body? Like, how would I be treating the body? How would I be speaking to the body? How would I be with the body? It's like, wow, that's a whole different, I don't know, it feels like a really rich, deep conversation, exploration for me.
Yeah.
Really, like, there's something there. And the fact that when you brought it up, it was like, whoa, okay, there's a really rich place to be and to explore, like, yeah. And I know for me, it's like, well, because we take these bodies for granted. So it's just like we abuse them a lot. We don't treat them right a lot of the time. Innocently, I'm not, I'm not pointing fingers or self-blame or blaming others, but we just do. We're not taught. We've not been taught to honor the body, not in Western civilization anyway. Not been taught to honor the temple within which we have this human experience, because we have these bodies. Without the bodies, the mind-body system, we wouldn't be able to have these experiences. And what do? We disconnect. We don't treat them right. Or we just get, I was saying to you, I mean, I did a little bit of research before this as well. Like, did you know that, we're made up of 50 trillion cells? 50 trillion cells, more than stars there are in the Milky Way. And do you know that every second, 1 to 2 million of these cells die? Every second, 1 to 2 million cells are dying and being created afresh, because we've always got the same amount of cells pretty much. They're dying and being created 1 to 2 million per second. It's like, wow. And there's so much more when you start looking. It's like, whoa. These are amazing vehicles. Like, yeah. Let's look in that direction more. That's what I want to say. Somebody's just coming in where they've got the time wrong.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so it's the miracle of, and all of it is powered by the source that that has created all this. Like, it's fabulous, and we are part of that. We're part of that. And so I just feel this, there's it is a mystery, an absolute mystery. There's so much for us to explore. And we plan on having fun exploring this as well. We want, deep conversations and having fun with it as well. There's no reason that they can't go hand in hand. And lots of loving relationships, I hope, will be created through us paying more attention. So thank you. I don't, Julie, did you have anything to add before we?
No, sounds good. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you
Thank
join
you.
us in September, and maybe we'll see you again on one of these. You never know. Julie's off to Australia tomorrow, so it won't be for another month, that's for sure.
Yeah, going to visit my kids. Haven't seen them in a year and a half, so I'm so excited.
Thank you for doing this just before you go. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. All right, take care, everybody. Have a lovely weekends, and see you all soon, we hope. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Thank you.